Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
Then David heard that we were kind of outside the dressing room. So we went into the locker room, as you do in America, to speak to him. And he's there in his pants. If there's ever a way to make a guy feel inferior, then that is it. Try standing next to David Beckham in his pants.
Did you get a Tim Henman? No.
Go on.
Unexpected semi.
You say to football journalists, Gordon Strachan, and they'll all go, oh, God, Gordon Strachan.
I love him.
Gordon Strachan is lovely.
I love him.
He's such a nice man. I always liked football managers who was shorter than me.
Did Danny DeVito ever manage a team? Welcome to Whistleblowers, the podcast. My name is Gordon Smart, the YTS Dougie Donnelly, and today, fresh from Milan Fashion Week, we have Marco Clattenburgissima, the Italian fashion model, in a brand new outfit, including a pair of hiking boots that wouldn't look out of place in the Highlands.
Buongiorno.
Bellissimo.
Buongiorno.
Yeah. Bella, bella.
When I walked around Milan yesterday for a coffee, you could just see this style of people, and you're thinking, this is a far distance away from my home city of Newcastle.
The big market.
Every corner's a Greggs. In Milan, all there was stylish people in coffee shops.
I mean, you can only see that level of style if you happen to be around a train station in the northwest when Ian Ladyman's boarding the train south.
Shuffling along in his old Parker.
With a hole in his shoe.
A hole in his shoe and an even bigger hole in his head.
Walking like John Wayne with a stone in his shoe. I was thinking that actually because you both made a long pilgrimage to be here today, but I've come down from Glasgow, early flight, got here on time. But Ian had to come here from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last night, which is probably a longer journey than anything on the planet. It's a nightmare to get out there, isn't it?
I love that stadium, and Tottenham played well, fair play. Yeah. The dodgy red card. The worst thing about it is because they want to make money.
Yep.
They keep the stadium open for like an hour after full time because they want people drinking and eating pizza and all the other stuff they sell. So normally when I leave a stadium an hour and a half after, you're straight on the tube and you're straight back. Victoria line last night at midnight was absolutely mental. Full of pissed up Tottenham fans who've just been let out the ground. You know what I mean?
And it's like guy from the Daily Mail, let's hammer him.
And of course the Dortmund fans, German fans don't care about the result. They're just there for the crack anyway. Yeah. Brilliant, the Dortmund fans. We're still going in the second half. So they've made the most of it as well. Mm-hmm. So they're all on the tube. So yeah, grumpy by the time I got back to the hotel about midnight.
Yeah, just funny every time I see Dortmund. Remember Paul Lambert won the Champions League, didn't he, with Dortmund? Yeah. But there was a great, when he left Dortmund, he held up a sign saying "Thank you, fans," with a grosses apostrophe between the N and the S. It still bothers me now.
Oh, that would really bother me.
That would bother you, wouldn't it?
That would really bother me. Do you know Paul Lambert?
I've done a couple of bits and pieces on the radio with him at 5 Live, yeah.
Interesting, because Craig Hope, our chief football reporter, knows Paul a little bit and tells me that he's a really lovely bloke. He used to come across as a real arse when he was a manager. It just shows how people can be different.
Yeah,
you know, you say to football journalists, Gordon Strachan, and they'll all go, oh, God, Gordon Strachan.
I love him.
Gordon Strachan is lovely.
I love him.
He's such a nice man.
Yeah.
Such a nice
it's
man.
Often, they say the same
There's
about
always
Ladyman.
difference in the pitch to out the pitch, isn't there?
Yeah.
Neil Warnock was the same. He was a nightmare in the pitch, but when he met him outside, different.
I always like football managers who are shorter than me. So that basically means that there's a list of Gordon Strachan and Gordon Strachan.
Did Danny DeVito ever manage a team?
Steady on. It's all right for me to take the piss out of the fact that I'm small.
I think
it's not
it's fine.
okay for you.
It's fine for us to do that. You were admiring Mark's shoes because they give him an extra inch this morning.
Definitely need a pair of those. But I'm not sure.
Milan Fashion Week, they are.
If I wore those boots, I'm not sure I've got the strength in my calf muscle to get those off the ground.
I've got terrible ITV injury from my Cuban heels.
They're like the diving
They would give him a couple of more inches, wouldn't they?
They're like diving boots.
You'd be taken much more seriously in a pair of Cuban heels.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that game is gone. But
so last night, boys, I was in Glasgow, right, at an amazing event with somebody. I think Ian, you might have worked with a guy called Craig Ferguson. And he walked all the way from Glasgow to the Euros last year. It's an amazing achievement. Obviously got tickets as a result of it, which was a long way to go for them.
Was that a bonus or not?
Was that?
Was that a bonus?
Well, the first game I would have given them back after we got pumped by Germany. But he's doing the same again, walking from California to Boston for the first Scotland game. 3,000 miles, I think it's 120 marathons he's got to do.
Wow.
It's a lot,
That's incredible.
It's a lot. So I went up last night and Craig Gordon, I had to interview Craig Gordon on stage. And it just struck me, like, he was 15 the last time Scotland played in a World Cup. He's now 43 and could be the oldest player to play.
And obviously playing in goal for Hearts, which means that if things go well between now and the summer, he could end up with a Scottish Premiership medal for his hometown club, because that was where he started, Hearts. That's where he was
God.
born. He's from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And could play in the World Cup for Scotland. And that save that he made
it was
recently against
incredible,
Dundee.
that
Good
was
save, wasn't it?
What a save. I
really
love
like
stories
him, by
like
the way.
that.
I really like him.
there's a great argument, isn't there? Age is just a number.
Yeah.
If they look after themselves,
Yeah.
and I
Slightly
know
different.
goalkeepers do last slightly longer than outfield players, of course, but there's a great example.
Although we've
that
just
is
mentioned,
still-
didn't Gordon play until he was 40? Gordon Strachan. I think
did,
we've just
yeah.
mentioned
Yeah,
that.
Well, Vinny-
He was quite old when he won the league with Leeds.
That's true, that, because when I
good
was talking
point.
about Vinnie Jones' book, he said at pre-season training, Gordon Strachan was like obliterating the young lads, because he was famous for the banana diet, wasn't he? He was really into
and he wasn't a
nutrition.
drinker and stuff
Wasn't
like
a
that.
drink. Looked at, well, he was early in his career, wasn't he? Because
Okay.
Fergie, when Fergie came to Man United, Strachan was like, oh no,
Yeah.
just got away from him.
Yeah.
You know, but Craig Gordon, though, the thing for him that I don't know if anybody's read this or remembers this in Roy Keane's book when he signed him for Sunderland. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
And he said he's the only goalkeeper in his career who was clapped off the training field for his performance. He said he was incredible, loved them. But the injuries he's had as well, that's the thing for me about Craig Gordon. Did you see that? I mean, it was a proper David bust. Oh, it was a shocker on the 18-yard box, a collision between a defender and a striker, and it was one of those you can't look at it. But he was showing me last night, so he's got a metal pin down the inside of his bone, screws, plates, the works. His arm, he's full of metal and screws and plates. So, you know, there's that famous book, The Body Keeps the Score. I mean, he's got miles on the clock.
Unusual for goalkeepers to
Yeah.
get injuries like that.
Brutal
Just for the
injuries.
sake of it, just because we can, I'll tell you two Gordon Strachan stories quickly.
Yes.
Because I'm
Why
here. and
not?
I
We
can.
love them.
Told me a great story about when he was at Aberdeen and he signed a new contract or something, or he just got there. As part of his deal, he spent his wages on a new house for the family, for his wife and the family. He said he spent everything he had on this new house, only to move in to find out had no radiators in it, and he'd blown his budget on the house. It was the most he could afford. He lived in Aberdeen, for God's sake, no radiators. And you say that he had an up and down relationship with Fergie, as we know. They fell out, didn't they, towards the back end of the time at United? They've reconciled now, but in the early days when Fergie was doing all that wonderful stuff at Aberdeen, and he'd say that Fergie would want to go on trips to watch players, to scout players, and he would take Strachan with him, even though he was just a young. He would take him with him on these long road trips. And he said Fergie had the worst taste in music you've ever heard in your life. He said they would be driving along, and Fergie would put a cassette in the cassette player in the car, turn the volume up. It would be some awful Scottish folk singer. And Gordon would press eject, take the tape out, and chuck him out the window.
That is
And
brilliant.
Fergie'd get another one and put that one in.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Just kind of,
Yeah.
stories that just wouldn't happen now.
Oh, it's
Those
cool.
type of relationships between managers and players.
He's funny though, isn't he? I loved all those famous quotes.
Gordon.
Like, Gordon, can you give us a quick word? Yeah, velocity. And then just walked off.
Yeah, I mean, he's a complete pain in the arse
Yeah.
for journalists when he was a manager. But he did say to me, when I interviewed him a few years ago, he said that he used to go home and worry about that stuff. He said he used to do it as a defence thing.
Yeah.
You know, he'd feel the pressure of a question from a journalist after a bad result, wouldn't know what to say. So he'd say something smart,
Yeah.
and then he'd go home and worry about it. And he said on occasion he did ring a journalist up and say, "Look,
I saw
shouldn't
that.
have said that." You know,
Mark, you must have had a bit of Strachan in your career, would you know?
No, not much.
No.
No, not much.
Who would? Because you've mentioned Mourinho in the past. You've mentioned Neil Warnock must have been a sort of a lively manager in your ear. He's the kind of guy I'd imagine would kick the door off the hinges and come and tell you what he thought.
He was nuts. But he used to know, because we used to call him Colin. And it was like a joke within the refereeing circles. And when you called him Colin, he knew, because the rest of his anagram of his name was Wanga. And he knew.
I just got it.
So we had that. So
Yeah.
when you did it, and it used to wind him up.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of quick stories with Neil Warnock. Once he took us to a tribunal
Yeah.
in Manchester, sent him off. And it was like so far that he, like, to go to Manchester, I had to take a day off work because I was semi-professional. And he knew it. It was just his way of, I can do what I want.
Noising you
I'm
up.
professional. I'm on my way down to an away game or whatever. You're going to come to Manchester for the day, and I'm going to make you wait around. And I waited around, and in the end, it got kicked out. And I said, "Why did he do it?" He said, "I just wanted you to come to Manchester, be a pain in the arse." I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? He'd done that deliberately. And then the second time I ended up with a one-match ban because of him. Well, it wasn't his fault. It was probably me, because I had a bad performance. I was refereeing West Brom, Crystal Palace, when he was manager at Palace later on. Yeah. And I think the keeper got wiped out on a corner. I missed it. And he wanted to come in at the end of the game, and I knew he wanted to come in. 30 minutes after was the managers were supposed to come in. I fucked off 20 minutes. Got into my car and fucked off because I was going to see Ed Sheeran. So the only way if I didn't go and leave in my car, I would have to go all the way back to the hotel.
Yeah.
From the hotel to Newcastle, and I thought I would miss Ed Sheeran, so I parked my car at the ground, got straight out, so I didn't. He didn't have the chance. So he didn't have the chance to argue. So I'm driving up the M6, and then the M1. Phone goes, unknown number. So I answered, and he goes, Mark. I'm thinking, I know this voice. Neil Warnock. He says, I wanted to see you. And I went, yeah, I've left. Yes, but I still want to have a go at you, blah, blah, blah. And I had a conversation for about a minute or two. And then I reported myself that Neil Warnock had spoke to us. And I'd left the stadium. And I got a one-match ban for it.
I would lock myself in Selhurst Park all night rather than just to avoid going to watch Ed Sheeran. That is all I would say about
What's the matter with Ed Sheeran?
What isn't the matter with Ed Sheeran?
Oh,
Right, boys, this is a very different podcast.
So you're talking about, you've just said Sir Alex's music. You're having a go at my music. What's yours?
I'm not going to go at your music. I'm just saying that Ed Sheeran's not my music. That's all I'm saying. Other managers call Warnock Colin, by the way. Other managers call him Colin.
Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah, they call him Colin.
Yeah.
And I don't mind Neil. Quite like him as a fella. But he's real Marmite in the managerial community.
See, I found it better later on.
A lot of people don't like Neil.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. There's not many in between.
Yeah.
You know what I liked about him? He was old school. And you know what I sometimes liked in people? They would do it to your face. And I haven't got a problem with that. In the end, when I got a bit more experience and I wasn't as bothered, you know what? When he had to go, you know what?
And that's still the best fly on the wall. The Sheffield United fly on the wall, which you can still get on YouTube, which is only about half an hour long, of one particular season under Warnock. Forget all these Netflix ones that you see now. The Sheffield United Neil Warnock fly on the wall is fabulous.
So when he was at Sheffield United, I was refereeing a playoff at Forest Sheffield United, first leg playoffs. I was only a young ref. In Football League, I wasn't in the Premier League at the time. I was trying to get promoted to the Premier League. And match finished 1-0. I gave a penalty to Sheffield United. Sent off Michael Dawson of Forest correctly. Everything was normal in the game. He comes in at the end of the game. And they mark you out of 10. So the managers used to mark you out of 10 as part of your assessment to go for promotion. And he says, I'm marking you 0. He says, what, you're marking a 0? Why? You've won 1-0 and I haven't done anything wrong. He says, yeah, but he says, if I mark you 10, you might get promoted to the Premier League and they'll fucking fuck you up. He says, I want you to stay in the Football League.
Fair enough. Right, boys, one massive story that kind of strays a little bit off the football pitch, but yeah, it's got a big footballing element nonetheless. David Beckham and the battle with Brooklyn Beckham and the fight behind the scenes, family matter that seems to have spilled over, I think we will say. I don't need to explain what's been going on because I think everybody really understands it. But Ian, your perspective on this is interesting. Mark, as well, I'd love to know a little bit about what it's like to referee Beckham, because I imagine you've done it a few times and what he was like. But first of all, what were your experiences of David Beckham as a player?
See, I was more of a fourth official when he was playing in his latter days at Manchester United. So I never really got to see him as, you know, like close up like the other Man United players, like your Roy Keanes and things. But what I can always remember with David was there was always that circus around him. You know, he was like, it wasn't just a football player. He was a superstar. You know, I would put him on like your Cristiano Ronaldo's, your Messi's. When you have them players around, they're not just football players. They've got their brands. They've got their images. They've got their whole persona. And it felt when you were in that environment, David Beckham was that icon. As a fan, you saw your ups when he scored against Greece, that wonderful free kick at Old Trafford, and then you saw the downs when he got sent off in the World Cup. So you saw it as a fan, what it's like. But always with David Beckham, there was that persona, there was that. And I remember the one time, and I couldn't believe he did it. I was only a referee, you know, crying out loud, and I was refereeing a Soccer Aid game, which was one of his charities for UNICEF. And he'd never really been around. I'd refereed a few years at Old Trafford, Manchester City, Chelsea, and we're playing at this London West Ham Stadium. And this year he was there. I thought, oh, that's strange because he'd never been around. It was Robbie Williams was always there, but never David Beckham. And he was there on the pitch and half time, and Robbie was singing and David Beckham was on the pitch, and he ignored a few people and he came over and he knew more about me than probably I knew about him.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, he'd gone to that detail to come across and ignore a lot of people and talk to us
That's a
like
real
human being.
Fergie
You know what
trick,
I
that,
felt?
isn't it?
Yeah, and I felt, wow. I felt he knew a lot about me.
Yeah.
And I felt, how did he find the time
Yeah.
of his wonderful life and who he is?
Yeah.
So if I A, to talk to me,
Mhm.
I'm only a ref, and B, to know a little bit about it.
So with that in mind, how do you feel about the story that's evolved this week or over the past few months? Actually,
I think I'm sad because I'm a dad.
yeah,
And
right.
I've got similar issues with my son. You know, he's 23 years old, and when families are strange things, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, they're not like your best mates.
Yeah.
And you know, when families aren't at that harmony,
Mhm.
you know, different relationships with different people in my family, and like my daughters are different to my son, and it's hard. But if your son speaks out, it'll affect the family. I wouldn't want my family to start talking about inside the family, because a family's an insular part of life, isn't it? And I think what goes on in your family should stay in your family. It's like I used to always say that as a football pitch, what happens on the football pitch stays on the football pitch. And I think what happens in families should stay in families. And I feel this could open up a lot of things, that if a member of your family, especially in the world that they live in, are not happy with something, there's going to be a lot of skeletons in the cupboard of what's happened over the years. And it's sad that we're playing this out, because at the end of the day, the family.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
it's
the
flesh and
one thing I learned over the years from covering bits of Beckham's career and watched him play and speaking to people who know him, etc., is that he's not stupid, David. He's not stupid, and I think he will. He certainly won't be fanning the flames of this. He'll be looking to close this whole thing down as quickly as possible. Now, I don't know how you do that once your son's blown the doors off the whole issue in the way that he has. But I don't think the one thing David will want now is to close this down. You won't see this escalate in terms of him saying something or his wife saying something. I think they'll try to do exactly what you've just said, Mark, which is to take it back indoors. But I echo what you said. It's just desperately sad. So many people feed off these things, which annoys me. People on social media who say, "Oh, I once met David Beckham."
You do work for the Daily Mail as well.
Yeah,
you do work for the Daily Mail.
Well, exactly, absolutely. Yeah. Apologise on behalf of everybody in this building. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See people on X and other platforms. Oh, I met David once, and it's like, oh, shut up, shut up. You've got no insight into this situation. You know what I mean?
Nobody. The only people that will know is the family members, and really people that are close. But like Ian said, for me, you know what really hits home? There's a lot of people in that situation, not just him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, families all over the world in them same situations.
Yeah.
Family feud all the time, and it's how, you know, this is a crisis for the Beckham family, and it's how they come through that.
That's the difference, isn't it? They're plugged into the biggest amplifier and speakers in the world possible, right? So Brooklyn's got 16 million followers, right? So I think he picked up 100,000 extra followers within 10 minutes of posting those messages on stories.
You will have dealt with Beckham more than I would have. Back in the day, because he was one of the first, if not the first, to not just straddle that line between being a sportsman and a showbiz celebrity. He didn't straddle it. He probably hopped over to the other side of it.
Well, it's quite an interesting perspective to have, actually, because I became the showbiz editor when Victoria Beckham got the Spice Girls back together for a world tour in 2006, 2007. So I went off around the world with them, and David came to all of that. I mean, there's some really funny stories on that I should. Can I tell them?
Yes.
Yeah, well, go on, yeah. There was... the good thing about working where I worked is that they would pay for good hotels. So I stayed in the Four Seasons in Vegas. And whoever it was in the room next door was having a wonderful time that night. And anyway, the next morning, closed my door going down for breakfast as David Beckham closed the door in his room next door on his way down to breakfast. And he just looked at me and went, fucking hell. Had to be you. So I went and had breakfast.
As long as he was having a wonderful time with Victoria, then that's all right. That's all I'm saying.
Gary Neville was there as well. But it was I ended up I really got on brilliantly with him. And this is the thing, you can only present the evidence of what you've seen with your own eyes and experienced yourself. And when I did that big shoot with Men's Health, he turned up an hour early because he wanted to go and pick up his daughter from school. So any criticism of him as a father is a bit harsh when you've seen him with the kids. And I've spent a bit of time with him in Brooklyn together, and he appears to have a lovely relationship with Brooklyn. You call him Buster, remember Bust? He calls him Bust. We went to Glastonbury and had a great couple of nights there. But it must be incredibly difficult for Brooklyn, because his entire life, as some commentators have said, since he was a fetus, he has been a news story, presented and used as a commodity to earn money. And now he's 25, perhaps he's just beginning to find his voice. But how do you find your voice? If you've got the solid foundations and support of somebody who really loves you and can understand that at a really personal level, and maybe that's what his marriage has provided. However, what clouds that for me is the hunger and thirst for fame, which I understand to be a bit of the pelt's ambition. And that creates a difficult thing, because being attached to that Beckham circus does raise your profile. And if you're a billionaire and the one thing you really want is fame, and money's not successfully buying that, then the only way you can leverage it is through your relationship with that family. And I think that's where challenges arise. But for me, the thing with Brooklyn is that he's just a daft wee impressionable laddie who's really struggling for his own identity. I mean, how do you ever escape the shadow of your famous father? It's really difficult, and that does provide him with incredible wealth. But it's a similar situation with Prince Harry. Does it buy you happiness? And there's a very short answer to that, and the answer is unequivocally no. It's not a happy life.
But it's interesting because they did try, didn't they, to play football, both of them, and both didn't make the grade. You know, that did they play for Inter Miami, PSG?
Romeo, I think Romeo,
was it Arsenal?
Arsenal, I think, for a bit, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so they've tried to follow in the footsteps, but didn't.
Cruz is a talented boy, good little musician. He's doing all right. But that's the thing; it must be so difficult, you know. And the problem for me is the airing of dirty laundry, right? And the thing that's going to be clear here for me in cases like this is that only the lawyers and the media win out of this. Newspapers will be sold, podcasts will be bought, subscriptions will go down, and lawyers, as we already know, have been getting paid a fortune, Harbolt and Lewis and shillings, communicating in legal letters. They'll be rubbing their hands together.
And David will be. It'll be. So I don't know what the word is, but it'll be. This is kind of exactly what David doesn't want his life to be, because control has always been a huge part of David's life, and we know he's talked himself about. Had a bit of OCD, didn't he, when he was younger? You know, stories of lining his cans of soup up in his kitchen cupboard and all the rest of it. And he was very much like that as a player. He was very meticulous. He was very specific about what he did, about what he ate, about how he trained, and that was his strength. All that ultra professionalism. One of the reasons he got on with Gary so well, because Gary's the same. That's his strength as a footballer, because when you're as talented as he was, there's lots of things in your life and your career that you can control.
He was the naturally most fit, wasn't he? The fittest player in that squad.
And also people forget sometimes just how incredibly good he was.
Oh, he's brilliant.
That sounds a weird thing to say.
No, he's great.
Okay,
but
people, if you said to people, name me, your top 5 Man United players, people would probably say Cristiano Ronaldo, Eric Cantona, George Best, Bobby Charlton, blah blah blah. David Beckham might not make the list, which is absurd. It's absurd, really. Wayne Rooney. It's absurd, really, because he was a magnificent footballer.
Listen, he was a captain for England as well, a great captain for England.
And a great leader.
Yeah, talisman.
And one of those players, you remember England, under Sven and all the rest of it, we were never quite as successful as they ought to have been. And I used to watch Beckham play. I used to watch him play for United and think, and there's always one person in that team who was driving standards, and it was him. He was one of those players who, if things were going wrong on the field, would say, right, I'll go get that ball. I don't care where the ball is, whether it's right back, left back, I'll go and get that ball, and I will deal with this. And that level of control, I think, was always very important to him. He had incredible control over what he did and where he went, in terms of Madrid and LA and
PSG,
Paris
AC Milan.
And Milan. You forget all the great clubs that he...
Well, he's the only player to win a major trophy in 4 countries, isn't he?
And it was all strategically plotted out for reasons that were largely to do with football, but not solely to do with football towards the end. I always thought that David could have played at what I call the highest level for longer. I think the move to LA was, choose my words carefully, not a cop-out, but it was an acceptance that I'm going to do something
That's the way I see it.
other than put football at the top priority because he could have played at a high level for longer, and he chose to go and
Getting
do
a
what he did.
franchise for
Still did, didn't
25
he? He
million.
still did. Even though he went to the MLS, he did come back on loan.
Came back to AC Milan and then
But
PSG.
played sporadically.
I know that, but what I see from outside, it was not that he was an incredible footballer, but what an incredible businessman he was to make that move to the MLS and see
The
what that
25 million
MLS was gonna
franchise
do.
deal is incredible, isn't
You
it?
know,
Look at
to
the
see what
value of Miami now.
Yeah.
Brilliant move.
So
He
that
had a-
move, but I slightly disagree that he went to the MLS and that was his way out, because he did go to Milan and PSG on loan and
he
still
went to two
performed
big.
at
He
a
went to
high
two
level.
brand clubs.
Mm. Yeah, but he was
Milan
never
and
coming back to the Premier
Paris.
League, would he?
You know,
What could he do after
not
Manchester
criticising.
United?
That was
Yeah.
his choice. He had a human touch, David. Say that with a smile. He did. He didn't forget. He knew what, he would remember people. I didn't know him particularly. I was in a group that covered him for a while, but I remember being on a pre-season tour in Denmark in a nightclub, and all the United players were behind a velvet rope in a VIP area, and we were just hanging around like journalists do, kind of on the edge of the dance floor. And David was
Before
the
you
one
took your horse home.
David, yeah, absolutely. David was the one who came down the steps, came across the dance floor.
Yeah.
How are you, boys? How's your tour? What you up to? What you doing
Yeah.
tonight? Where you going?
Now that's important evidence here, right? Because anybody who wants to make an assumption about his character, and it's authentic when he does it. Because
Yeah.
I work with a brilliant newspaper photographer, Mark Tattersall, and he used to travel with Man United quite a lot when Beckham was coming through the ranks. And he said he remembers his first ever interaction. Right, he was on a plane, the club plane, flying to a Champions League game or whatever it was. And this kid comes up the back with a plate full of the foil wrapped expensive chocolate biscuits and went, "Lads, I've nicked these. Do you want some?" And they were like, "All right, thanks. What's your name, mate?" "David Beckham."
Yeah.
And he knew what he was doing at that time. I think he was 14, 15 at the time, maybe, coming through the ranks. And again, from my experience, the first time I really spent proper time with him, and you could look at this two ways. He moved from Real Madrid to Galaxy. So he took us to Madrid for a weekend, me and my wife. And what an amazing experience. It was brilliant. Went for dinner together. Annoyingly, he got suspended, so he wasn't playing. That meant, though, we got to get a drink. So we had a great night with him. So my wife went to the same college as Victoria, Lane Theatre Arts in Surrey. So she had a really good understanding of Victoria. And she had a horrible time when she was at college. There's a famous line from Miss Lane, Betty Lane, who owned the college. She used to say on a Monday, "Right, can we get the crane to get Miss Adams on stage, please?" So there are fundamentally deep issues in her about her presence, her look, the way she is. That industry, being a dancer and then going into pop is brutal. So, if you look at the trauma of some of that stuff in her life, it's tough. Attach that to Beckham and the fame they were under, and then the way they set up this weekend with us was all about the move to Galaxy, because they were about to become incredibly famous. Didn't want it to be seen, famous on a different scale. They didn't want it to be seen as a cynical move to Hollywood. And in all fairness, it won me over, because he was so open and great crack. And, we bonded over a player called Grant Brebner, who was a Hibs lad from Edinburgh who went to play for Man United. I think he was Phil Neville's best man. And he's like, "Oh, Brebs, yeah, I remember him." And off we went. And his stories, he really opened up, told great stories, and totally won me over, telling me about Preston North End, what it was like going out on loan, playing against Terry Hurlock and getting battered by Millwall. And I had a lot of respect for him, the way he opened up about that. And actually, that was a masterstroke, a PR masterstroke, because I was on board with him from 2006.
The Preston loan thing is funny, because I was looking back at that recently. He was only there for a few months, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Played in the team with David Moyes. David Moyes was in that team. He scored 2 goals. I think he scored 1 direct from a corner.
Yeah.
But I think I went to LA when he was there, when he was playing in the MLS Cup final, and there was a bit of a press junket arranged for a few English journalists. I went over 3 or 4 days in LA, and I remember they won it, and afterwards we were trying to get to see him, and of course the media were everywhere. They'd won the cup, and the guy's like, no, you've had the access that you were promised on this trip, you're not getting any more access. Then David heard that we were kind of outside the dressing room, and he was like, no, he said they've come from England, we're coming in, I'll talk to them. So we went into the locker room, as you do in America, to speak to him. And he's there in his pants, and if there's ever a way to make a guy feel inferior, then that is it. Try standing next to David Beckham in his pants and interview him with a straight face.
Did you get a Tim Henman?
Go on,
Unexpected semi. Thank you very much.
Well,
Well, I can. I'm going to 11 reef your story now, haven't I? Because you've given us your 10 reef. I'm going to 11 reef it. I used to go a knockabout with a few folk that are pally with David. And if this lad messaged me, I won't say his name, but he messaged me and said, right, come boxing this morning. We used to go to posh boxing in Marylebone. And I was, like a dog-eared £5 note turning up. I'd been out on the night before, turned up reeking a bevy. And I've walked in and started doing circuit training before the boxing started. And David Beckham's there. And he's like, "How are you, Gordon?" I'm like, "Yeah, great. Aye, great." Like the Scottish stereotype.
That was the voice of Greg.
Great. The voice of Greg. Brilliant, David. So we do this boxing class. And it's so funny because people would just go, "Oh, that's David Beckham in his boxing class." 25 of us, probably 20 women and 5 of us. And sure enough, afterwards it's communal showers.
Oh no!
So I tell you what, he took fucking forever to get ready.
Did you keep your pants on in the shower?
Ian, don't project your own insecurities on me.
Why not?
I was.
Why would I not?
I was straight in there. I was like, "David, in here. I want to look." But anyways, we had a shower together, and I was chatting away to him. I was like,
together.
"Mate, you've got about 4 layers of moisturiser on now. There's nothing left to moisturise. Your shoes are going to slip off if you put any more of that shite on." I was like, "We've got the pub to go. It's 9 o'clock." But it was an amazing experience. And then I went to Miami last year. Was it last year? Yeah, I went to Miami, and and he looks after you so well in his box on the halfway line. And to bring this back to the Brooklyn situation, I find it incredibly sad because blood is thicker than water, right? And families fall out for 40 years, don't they, over not going to a funeral or some slight that happened over some really petty issue. But those acorns grow into massive tumours, don't they? And I think this is one that has to be nipped in the bud, and they need a mediator to fix it. But again, to just give a little bit of insight on Brooklyn, again, a good mate of mine looked after him in New York when he went off to do his photography course. And I don't know, he's just a lost wee soul, I think. And, I think they are good parents. But I'm just so glad that my son hasn't been exposed to that level of fame, because it is a cruel mistress.
I think this is half the problem, isn't it? Because when you get older, you start trying to protect your family because the pitfalls. But life's changed so much. Like my daughter, she's 14, and what she comes out with now, I've never heard of in my life. And you have to adapt. You have to think that they've got their life as well, but their life's completely different to what we had. So you're trying to protect them, thinking, well, you can't do that and you can't do that. But what they're saying is that's normal. So there's this evolving that you have to do as a parent. Because if I try to protect my daughter the way I want to protect her, she'll probably hate us for life because I would probably overprotect. So it's trying to find that happy medium. But my daughter she didn't understand it at first. I remember the first time when I was in the living room and I was on the TV. So there was highlights the next day, and she was trying to work out in her head when she was 5 years old why I'm on the TV and I'm standing there, because she's thinking I was behind the TV. So she didn't understand that concept. But now because I'm not in football now, which helps because the abuse is less than it was when I was a football referee, because it doesn't matter what happens in life. Football fans are very angry. Doesn't matter if they win, lose or draw. They vent their anger.
And Gladiators is a lovely fame, surely.
But Gladiators has turned.
It's
probably the best decision of my life, taking that role up, which was always going to be difficult after John Anderson, of course. But it was the best decision because it's actually give us a platform to be normal and to be liked by children and the parents, because the parents are thinking, well, if my kids like it, I've got to like them. So the dads hate us originally, but they're actually starting to like it. So it's a wonderful. But my daughter's thinking, she gets stopped with the school. People ask her all the time because she's got a unique surname. That's half of her problem because the name's so unique. She's not like a Smith or something where you could. People would have to know. It's not difficult to work it out, but she just laughs at it because of the Gladiators has changed that football. If I was still in football, it would be a lot more difficult for her.
Yeah, it's
so
interesting.
Her mates will be asking her for tickets now, won't they?
For Gladiators, No, but it's really nice to have that connection. I remember she never ever wanted me to drop her off. It would be like, leave us in the car. She would give us she would move her forehead, and I would have to kiss her forehead. Typically, you know what it's like as parent.
When you were refereeing, you mean?
No, just in refereeing, but and I never really seen her in this world with her school friends. And they were going on a school trip to Spain. It was last year, and I'd flown in, and I said to Claire, look, I'm gonna take her to the airport. It was like 5 a.m. I'm taking her to the airport. I'd had only a few hours sleep, but I wanted to take her to the airport. I wanted to see her off for our first school trip away. And I took her to the airport, and she went, Daddy, you're not taking us in. I went, you want me to take you into the airport? She went, yes, please. So gets her suitcase out and I walks in the airport, and all her friends were waiting for us. It was like, and I said, why did you do that? And she said, yeah, but it makes me look a little bit cool because they all wanted to see you.
So,
and it made me feel nice.
So to reframe that slightly in the context of Brooklyn Beckham, how would you feel if your daughter decided to go on social media and have a pop because there was an issue around her wedding?
I'd be angry.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing, I'd be disappointed that everything I've done, and everybody makes mistakes. Mm. Everybody in the world will make mistakes in family. Mm. And it's about learning from their mistakes. And I think if my daughter did that, for what I've done and tried to protect and support and do everything I can, even though it's not her fault and it's not Brooklyn's fault, how he was born and brought up, there's a rule that I would want to have that respect. And I think I go back to my childhood. I had big respect for my parents. Big respect. And I'm not sure now the youth have that same respect for their parents.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, this is ridiculous, right? So I'm aware of it before I even start saying it. But, you know, my wife and her dad was a famous football guy in the 80s and 90s, right? And there was this moment where he left Dunfermline and there was this huge protest. I think 4,000 people marched through Dunfermline to protest against him leaving the club, and they had to go into a safe house at one point because it was a really big thing in Scottish football at the time. And she's kind of lived in the shadow of her dad, and he's a huge personality. He's a very flamboyant guy, Jim Leishman. And it's been hard for her in her life to cope with, you know, going on a holiday and somebody coming up. I remember she tells a story that she had the brand new Dunfermline kit before anybody else. And a family came up from Dunfermline and he was like, come on, give me that strip. And he took the strip off her back and gave it to somebody else's kid. And she was gutted. But that's the kind of thing he would do. And he's got this massive personality. There's a lot of ego and narcissism going on. But to live with that is tough for a child. And it's definitely, I think, affected my wife and her brother profoundly to cope with that. And we ended up on this Glastonbury trip with Beckham, and my wife spent a lot of it with Brooklyn. And they you know, had this bond together, telling, I was like, I kind of understand. It's not the same, anything like the same, but I know how you feel when you live in the shadow of a parent. And they really hit it off, and Brooklyn was quite tearful and open about a lot of the stuff that was going on. And I came away from it thinking, is it really worth the money? Would you take all that money and fame? I don't know.
Do you think my daughter's going to have this problem?
I mean, the Ladyman dynasty is often talked about. You know, Andy Dillon has had this problem, isn't he?
Yeah, Andy has, yeah.
When you work for a big paper, you know. Like,
can I just say, by the way, apropos of nothing, come on, I think I posted it on the group. Yeah. Sunday morning, football. My daughter, 7 years old, in a brand new Man City strip, right?
Loved it.
It's very, very
great picture.
It's just a school thing. It's not really a team. It's a kickabout, really. But she's decided she's a defender. She's the only girl who plays with about 20 boys, and she's rampaging around. And she gets stuck in, and she's quite good at tackling. And at the end of it, one kid always gets a trophy. Come with the kid who's tried hardest, or who might be the best, or who has been a good teammate. And she's had it once before, and she got it again this week. And the speech the guy gave, the PE teacher's a United fan. It's the day after the derby, right? Ether's got a City kit on, but the little City said, all I want to say is, he said, Ether, watching you was like watching Harry Maguire with Erling Haaland in his back pocket.
Brilliant.
And she walks off with this trophy with a grin on her face. And that's what it's about. Who cares?
Ian Ladyman
made us feel special.
Oh, seriously, it made her feel special. Made me feel special.
That's Ian Ladyman, suddenly an advocate for women's football. You know,
strange, isn't it?
Now, before we hear some more of Mark and Ian's thoughts, we're in partnership with Wix Trade Pro, and for any tradespeople out there, this one is for you.
That's right, because Wix Trade Pro is here to save you time and money.
Save 10% every time you shop in store or online. There's no minimum spend, no hassle, just savings.
Amazing. And what's more, Wix Trade Pro want you to start the new year off right.
That's why they've introduced Smart Water, the award-winning forensic marking technology that's proven to deter tool thieves and make your gear traceable and recoverable. And all it takes is 3 simple steps.
That's right. First, mark your tools with the applicator and solution provided. Then place the deterrent signage on windows and doors before registering your marked tools so they can be identified. If only VAR made things that easy.
You're telling me.
To sign up and start saving, just download the Wix Trade Pro app today.
Do you know, it's probably quite a good point to move on, because there's an element of family to the next thing we want to discuss today. And actually, David Beckham has been active on social media as we record this podcast to wish his dear friend Nicky Butt a happy birthday. I think he must be 51. Possibly 51. Anyway, back on social media to wish his pal a happy birthday. And Ian, I read a piece that you'd written about the class of 92. In fact, you've written about it quite a lot, actually, haven't you? And the influence they have on the current Man United squad. And, you know, just to start with you on this one, Mark, you know, when I came in this morning, there is a little bit of the playground around the situation with Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes and Martinez, isn't there?
Yeah, I found it quite funny.
Yeah.
Like they're calling each other out. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like Sunday morning banter, isn't it? But it's not banter because it's like played out to the whole wide world.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating, I think the class of 92, they've all got agendas, haven't they? In my opinion, they've all got their different agendas.
Mm-hmm.
They've all wonderful football players. They've all transformed Manchester United into that team they were and how successful they were under Fergie. And there were so much great talents. But I find it absolutely bananas that a modern day player is worried about what they're saying. And it's interesting because, you know, I was listening, I was working with some pundits on Amazon Prime, and you can hear them gossiping about players are on the mobile phones constantly, reviewing what's being said on social media.
Really?
Half times and full times, they're obsessed. And you're thinking, hold on.
It's interesting.
Are they that obsessed, Ian, to get to a point where they're reacting and saying, I'll come round to my house, mate, and
I've got your number.
We'll sort it out. Are we getting to that level where a professional football player, if I reacted as a referee to the abuse I take on social media, I would be constantly saying, come round to my house, come round to my house.
Yeah.
Because the abuse is ridiculous.
It goes a line, doesn't it? Before you reply to that, Ian, I think there is a good point on this, isn't there? That, you know, they are now paid to be pundits, but let's not forget Alan Hansen on Match of the Day in front of a massive audience absolutely dug out the class of 92 when they broke through at the first team. You can't win anything with kids. So that was the sort of the historical equivalent of what's happening now. And he did it in a fairly, in fact, there was no grey area. It was brutal, wasn't it? So they do know what it feels like.
I don't think they do. So just to reply to one thing Mark said, I don't think they do have agendas, actually. I think on the whole, Neville and Scholes and Butt and the rest of them, I think they do generally still want Manchester United to win. In fact, I know they do. They want Manchester United. I don't think there's an agenda, okay? They'd argue that they're kind of doing their jobs. However, I do think, and I'm convinced by this, that no other football club, and I thought this about Ruben Amorim before he was sacked, no other football club or manager has to put up with what a Manchester United manager puts up with, okay, in terms of the constant noise, and because they've been unsuccessful recently, the constant battering and negativity by this coterie of decorated former players, okay? No one else has it. Liverpool might get a bit from Jamie Carragher. Man City might get a bit from Micah Richards and Joe Hart. Thomas Frank gets a bit from Ramon Vega. It's like being battered by wet fish.
Yeah.
And yet the Man United dressing room have got all of them. Neville, Butt, Scholes, Keane, Rooney.
Arsenal have had a bit over the years.
Ferdinand. So I think it's different. Back in the day, you talk about Alan Hansen, that would be it. Back in the day, the only thing in Gary Neville and that group's era, all they had to worry about was newspapers and what people said on Match Today. No social media. So
they
it
weren't
is
sitting
different
in their
now.
living room getting battered with it all night.
So it is different now.
I'll give you that.
And going back to what you say, Mark, when I wrote a piece I wrote a piece back in December about the class of 92's relationship with the current Man United. It came on the back of Scholes and Butt saying on their podcast that they couldn't get tickets for matches. Wasn't really true, but they said it anyway. So I wrote a piece. I spoke to a lot of people at United and around the guys, and the message one of the key messages out of United was that everything that these guys say lands so heavily in that United dressing room. And I said to them, like you just said, why do they listen to it?
Yeah.
Why do they care? And the United's response is they can't avoid it. They said you've got to realise
can't avoid it.
none
You
of the
can't avoid it, you
players,
can't.
none of the players are listening to the podcasts. Okay, none of the players are watching Match Today. None of the players are watching Monday Night Football. But what the players are getting is constantly bombarded with social media snippets from their mates, from their wives, from their kids, from their families, from their agents, so they can't avoid it. I'm not saying that's right. That was United's view.
So how did you feel about it, both of you? I'm interested
view.
to... Go on then.
I understand what you're saying, but we're talking about Manchester United, and they're big and have the biggest, in my opinion, one of the biggest global audiences as a football club around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because everywhere you go, Manchester United, Manchester United, Manchester United. Yeah, it's slightly changing what you said in a previous podcast where people follow players. So you've now got the Mo Salah effect at Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
But Manchester United are still globally, you go to Asia, it's Manchester United everywhere. And you know when you're saying for Manchester United, it's the biggest club and it's got responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But you never had Ronaldo or you never had other players in the same mental state as some of these Manchester United players are now, that they're calling players or ex-pundits or pundits, ex-players, out for a fight. And for me, you're playing for the biggest club in the world. Yes, there's certain levels that you need to protect the players, of course, internally. But you as a Manchester United player should be strong enough to deal with that outside noise. If I was that weak as a referee, I wouldn't have refereed. The abuse I would take every week, from death threats to abuse to what you wore, what your wife looked like, it was just... So I would never. I wouldn't want to referee, but why would I want to referee? Because I love doing it. Surely these Manchester United players love playing football.
And also, there's a media department that should be able to handle that, and their agents should be able to handle that and can help control what they get access to. I was interested in your reaction, both of your reactions to Roy Keane having his arse handed to him by Michael Carrick at the weekend, because that was an amazing 90-minute turnaround, wasn't it? And also Michael Carrick's wife getting involved. Now, what was your take on that?
I mean, my relationship with Roy Keane's been simmering for a while because he wouldn't shake me hand in guitar.
Right.
But you can't have it both ways. If Roy Keane goes out and spits his dummy out, and you can have it back. It's a two-way thing for me.
I don't think Roy Keane should be. I thought it was a cheap shot from Roy.
Is it about to
I thought it
turn?
was a cheap
Do
shot.
you think it's about to turn for Roy Keane here? Because I've really enjoyed his punditry. I like his straight talking, but I'm beginning to get the sense it's becoming a wee bit performative now. And
so it's a really good point. I think it's been performative for a while, actually. And again, going back to writing that piece and speaking to people at United, they all categorically accept that Neville, Butts, Scholes, Rooney, Ferdinand, blah, 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 have the best interests of Man United at heart.
Right.
They are not sure about Keane.
Right.
Because of the way that Keane left the building back in the day after falling out with Alex Ferguson. They are not sure whether Roy Keane genuinely wants them to win football matches or not. They are not sure about that. Nobody knows that. Only Roy knows that. They're pretty sure that despite the issues that they've had historically and that they're currently having in terms of the dressing room with Button Scholes particularly, they're still pretty sure that those guys have got the best interest of Man United at heart. They're not sure it's the same way.
So it's interesting because I think there are a couple of remarks he made that I want to pick up as a particular example of where things don't become about the evidence in front of you and just about personality. And maybe this is because I'm, supportive of Darren Fletcher, but he said, he would pick up the phone to speak to Alex Ferguson to find out what colour of socks to wear to the game, and then Michael Carrick's next on the phone to speak to Sir Alex Ferguson. That's because clearly you have an issue with Sir Alex Ferguson. Yeah. And that for me just feels like it's not good and accurate punditry.
Do you think a lot of it's got personal? Because was it John O'Shea went personal with last week?
Did he?
But about being kit manager.
Mm-hmm. No, Johnny Evans.
Johnny Evans, sorry, not Johnny.
Yeah, that was personal.
Johnny Evans, and he made reference to Johnny Evans, why he was being on
and the dressing room being a failure. Yeah,
and you're thinking that's personal. That's not. You don't know as a person now, or B as a coach, what Johnny Evans is bringing to Manchester United. It might not just be his training ground. It could be linking the players. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
but it seemed a cheap shot that he's talking personally about an ex-Manchester United player like that when
Yeah, I listened to that podcast last week actually, and they were talking about Steve Holland and what a good appointment Steve Holland was to Michael Carrick's coaching staff, and I think that is a good appointment, and I think you could see the influence of that appointment in the first Man United team that Michael Carrick picked. Had Kobbie Mainoo in it, had Harry Maguire in it, had Luke Shaw in it, 3 players who'd done very well for Steve Holland when he was with Gareth with England. So they were talking about that appointment, and then Roy took the conversation and said, well, why have they appointed Johnny Evans? And Gary kept trying to say, well, we don't really know why he's appointed Johnny Evans, but he has. And Roy just wouldn't let it go. What's the credibility? What are his coaching credentials, etc., etc. Someone told me a story about Scholes and the way that Scholes goes about his punditry. It was when he was working for TNT, just that he's, because Scholes can be, he's dry, he's deadpan.
I love him.
Some great one-liners. And this guy told me that, Scholes used to rock up, and he sounds as though he's been thinking about this and that he's turned up at the studio kind of ready to go. I'm told it's the opposite. He just says what comes into his head, an honest view of what he sees on the field. But apparently, he was working for TNT when United got to the Europa League final under Ollie. Was it against Villarreal, the one they lost on penalties? I wasn't there. Anyway, they get to Europa League final. It's Man United. Scholes is one of the TNT pundits, and they say, "Right, Paul, do you want to be on the team for the final?" No. What do you mean, no? No, I've done my games. I'm contracted for 20 games, and I've done my 20 games. They're like, "Yeah, but they're in the final. It's Man United. Just come do one more game." With the fight, says, "No. Done me 20 games. I'm going to watch it at home with me lad." Didn't go.
Absolutely amazing. It's amazing. And that's one thing to remember in all of this, right? A lot of the criticism. So Martinez and the players are getting upset because of who it is that's criticising them. There's a separate thing, isn't there, with the people that are sending you abuse, writing referee in a letter and sending it to your house. And, the experience of that is brutal. Like my father-in-law, again, message boards used to wind him up. And I remember once he was in a fury one night because somebody had said he parks his big car outside and the club's wasting money on this and that. I know that he'd paid the players' wages out of his own pocket.
nobody sees that.
That's my inheritance.
Yeah.
Did you ever bite back, Mark?
I did once.
Yeah.
I didn't bite back, but you very rarely get it to your face, do you? It's all like
that's
clickbait,
classic,
isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But it was one day I was in Terminal 5, and if you've ever been to the South Business Lounge, they've got a glass partition, so you've got like 2 parts of a lounge.
I wouldn't know.
And I was in the glass side, the glass side. So I was just keeping myself to myself.
You're a flash bastard, aren't you?
Yeah, flash bastard. You wait for pay for business class flights,
He was in Witherspoons.
Yeah. But they always put always give with business class flights. That's why I was in. So I'd come back from a game and I was just doing something, keep myself to myself, and as I always did.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I ended up going on Twitter and searching about, see what's going on. And this fucking kid, he was from Scotland, Celtic fan.
Yeah.
Absolutely annihilating us, saying, "I'm fucking acting big time Charlie in the lounge. I'm doing this and I'm doing that." And I'm thinking, hold on. People that read that'll think I'm fucking acting, and all I'm doing is
this
keeping
is
myself to
brilliant.
myself.
So he's in the lounge.
He's in there.
Live
He's on the opposite
brilliant.
side. So and I'm thinking myself, when I looked at his picture, I'm thinking, that's a fucking daft cunt, eh?
This is brilliant.
So I left it, and I thought it was eating away at us, and I'm thinking, yeah, but if people read that, they'll think I'm a pretty big time, and all I'm doing is
the
just
right to
sitting
reply is not there, is
there.
it?
So the cheeky thing was, as I came out the lounge, I'm going to my flight for Newcastle, and I comes out and he stands up, and I'm thinking, whoa, here we go. And he says, "Mark, any chance of a picture?" Nice as ninepence, any chance of a picture? I went, "You can fuck right off what you've just said about me. I wasn't fucking acting big time. I was just, I'm sorry. I went, what? Just to say I were acting cool in front of your friends by putting that tweet out."
Yeah.
I says, all I was doing was fucking keep myself to myself. Fuck right off, and I walked away.
That's extraordinary. I think I'd have been straight over.
Yeah.
But
Before
you can't
that.
fight them, can you? Because if you're going to fight them,
No,
I'm going to end up in. I'll end up in Gordon's column. Do you know what I mean? But it
You would
wasn't
have
the point. It wasn't the point.
Again.
But people, this is the other thing as well. What you see on social media, people write all sorts about me, but they don't even know. And I remember when I first met Claire, years and years ago, and she had a group of friends, and I got introduced to one of the guys, and he was a golf professional, Peter, and they had an impression of me from what they've read and what they see on TV. at the end of the night when we'd had a few beers together, everyone said, "Clay, he's not that type of guy.
Yeah.
He's actually normal."
Was that before or after you were putting the keys in the bowl?
Yeah.
It's funny though.
That was
isn't
He's
it?
not having
Yeah.
a job in that, is he?
But do you understand? It?
Yeah, I do. I totally
it's
get
a
it,
weird. It's a weird.
Yeah.
And going back to what you've just said about the Class 92, I'm in the opposite ilk, me.
Yeah.
That if people have got time to call me out, of great players like Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, who were wonderful, wonderful football players.
Brilliant, yeah.
And I had the chance to referee them, and they were world class. They were fantastic players. That would actually drive me on if they're spending their time saying about my performances. I would look at my own performances first. And if I was performing at the highest level, like I believe they did on Saturday against their arch enemy, that's the way to shut them up.
Right, get in touch with us with your questions, please. Whistleblowers@dailymail.com. You will find us on social media. It's just very easy. Look up Mark Clattenburg, read the abuse, and it'll gradually lead your way to us. Whistleblowers@dailymail.com. Right, Mark, have you brought your whistle?
No.
Ah.
I've decided all the way from Milan, if I took it to Milan, it would have been extra luggage. And
I've
because
got an
I was
idea,
flying
guys.
cheap airlines,
I've got a really, really good idea. Why don't we just keep the whistle here?
I'm frightened.
Can we
in case it
keep the
goes-
whistle here?
Yeah, I might do.
Yeah?
Yeah, we'll do that next time. I'll
All
bring a whistle in.
Leave it here.
We'll
Hide
leave
it.
We'll hide it.
Great stuff.
There's
Right.
one there, but I can't get it.
Oh. No, I'm not going to try
No, we're
to
not
tear
moving
it off.
it. No, we're not.
Right, Mark,
Ready, ready?
Would you make a noise, Mark, to end? Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, episodes every Thursday and Tuesday. And on a Sunday, you'll get our clip of the week.